You are not failing because you want too much. You are failing because you keep checking, not with your eyes alone, with your feeling. You look at the world and you quietly ask it again and again, has it happened yet? And every time you ask, you announce to yourself that it has not. That is the habit I want you to stop. Not tomorrow, now. Be still with me for a moment, not to learn a new method, but to notice what you have been doing without realizing it. Think back to a desire that felt heavy, something you truly wanted, something you carried like a secret ache. You tried to be faithful, you tried to do it right, yet life remained unmoved. Now remember another time when something arrived with ease, not because you struggled well, but because you were strangely at rest. It came without negotiation, without inner pleading, without that tight, watchful waiting. Why does one desire feel delayed, while another seems to fall into your lap? It is not luck. It is not fate. It is not the world deciding who is worthy. It is the state you occupy. And tonight, if you understand this, you will stop living as the one who hopes and become the one who knows. But first, you must see the single thing you keep doing so innocently that keeps your desire forever in the distance. And once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. The outer world is not the maker. It is the made. It is the echo, not the voice. You say you want a new life, but you keep consulting the old life for permission. You look at appearances as though they were final, as though they were authorities, as though they had the power to declare what you can have. And then you wonder why you feel trapped. I tell you, the world you see is a mirror that reflects the assumption you live in, not the assumption you recite, the assumption you inhabit. When you repeatedly look for evidence, you are not being careful. You are not being realistic. You are being faithful to the state of not having, and you have been very loyal to it. This is why so many sincere people feel exhausted. They are not weak. They are not doing it wrong because they lack discipline. They simply keep returning quietly to the inner posture of not yet. They pray as though begging. They imagine as though persuading. They affirm as though pushing a locked door, but the door is not locked. You are standing in front of it, insisting it must open before you enter. Do you see the inversion? You do not enter the state because the world changed. The world changes because you entered the state. So what must you stop? Stop using the world as your judge. Stop asking the mirror to create the face. And yet, there is a question that arises immediately in you. How do I stop looking without pretending? How do I become inwardly certain while the world still shows the opposite? Good. That question is the doorway. And in the next act, I will show you the simple inner movement that makes certainty natural, not forced. The secret is not to want less. It is to occupy more, not more effort, more being. You have treated your desire as something you must obtain, but your desire is a state you must enter. When you enter a state, you do not try to convince yourself. You move in as you would move into a house. You stop standing outside, describing the rooms. You live there. So here is what I do, and what I have taught for years. I select a short, simple scene, one that would be true after my wish is fulfilled, not a long story, not a struggle, just an implication, a handshake, a ring on the finger, a friend's voice saying a single sentence that would only be spoken if it were already done. Then I do something most people never quite do. I give it the tones of reality. I let it have weight. I let it be natural, and I accept it, not as a possibility, but as a fact experienced inwardly. Now listen carefully. The power is not in repeating it all day. The power is in the acceptance that follows the act. Many imagine, and then immediately return to the old inner posture. Let's see if it worked. That quiet sentence destroys the imaginal act because it places it back into the future. Instead, when I have felt it as real, I drop it, not in indifference, in completion, like sealing a letter and placing it in the hands of one who delivers. You do not run after the messenger down the road, demanding proof every few steps. You have done your part, and if you can do this, truly, you will feel a strange shift, a soft closing inside, a rest. But here's where most people stumble. The morning comes, the day unfolds, and the old habit returns, subtle, reasonable, familiar, the urge to measure, the urge to interpret, the urge to check. In the next act, I will show you what to do in that moment, because that moment decides everything. There is always a space between an inward change and the rearrangement of the world, and that space tempts you. It tempts you to resume the old identity. It tempts you to argue with appearances. It tempts you to become a watcher again. But the wise do not panic in the interval. They understand something simple. If the end has been accepted within, the means must conform without. The outer world has its own way of reshaping. It weaves together conversations, timings, movements of people, without your strain. Your only task is to remain faithful to what you have inwardly accepted. Now, how do you remain faithful? Not by tension, not by forcing a smile, not by suppressing every thought. You remain faithful by resting in the mood of completion. When doubt rises, you do not wrestle it. You do not dramatize it. You do not turn it into a prophecy. You simply recognize it. That is the old state speaking, and you return quietly to being the one for whom it is already true. This is what I have called the Sabbath. Not a day of the week, a condition of the soul, a stillness, a settledness, a refusal to keep reopening what has been closed. And yes, at first you may feel the pull to do more, but understand what that impulse really is. It is not devotion. It is fear disguised as effort. You think effort will protect you from disappointment, so you keep working the desire like a worry stone in the pocket. But the desire is not fulfilled by worry. It is fulfilled by identity. So you practice this. You let the world be noisy while you remain inwardly quiet. You let the day present its shadows without treating them as commandments. And then, almost against your expectation, life begins to bend. Yet there is one final key, a single decision you make when the old craving to look again returns. That decision will keep you from slipping back into waiting, and I will give it to you now. Here is the thing to stop. Finally, plainly, stop maintaining a vigil over your desire. Stop standing guard at the doorway of life, listening for footsteps, demanding the sound of arrival. That vigil is not love. It is not faith. It is fear. The fulfilled self does not keep watch. The fulfilled self lives. So tonight, and from this moment forward, make one inward agreement. I will no longer consult appearances to decide what is true. Say it slowly inside and feel what it means. Then do what is simple. Enter your imaginal scene. Let it imply the end is accomplished. Accept it as real, just long enough for it to feel natural. And then stop, not as a trick, as a seal. When you rise from that act, do not carry your desire like a question. Carry it like a conclusion. If the old urge appears to measure progress, to interpret silence, to demand movement, do not argue. Do not chase yourself. Just return to the inward fact. It is done, and let that be enough. Now, I will not ask you to strain. I will not ask you to fight the day. I ask you to practice a quieter power. Before you sleep, assume you are already what you long to be. Fall asleep as that one, not pleading, not watching, not waiting. And if you wake tomorrow with the old heaviness, remember, it is only a habit of the former state. You do not serve it anymore. You have chosen a new dwelling place. Remain there in simple confidence, and you will watch the world without effort become faithful to you. And now, be still. Let it settle. Let it be final.